versus Rude Elder Records at
Skunk,
what's the name of the band?
Inqirad.
So what's your purpose for here today at the gig?
So I wanted to show solidarity with my people's cause. They wanted me to be in this part of this show, so I was very stoked and happy and excited to get the pleasure to play this show.
So what is your background story? Like your own background story, your family, how you got here or how they got here, stuff like that.
Sure. So I'm Arab American. I was born in Boston, Massachusetts, and I lived there till I was like about 4 years old. We moved to Jordan, Ahmad, where I spent the rest of my life until I moved back here in California 10 years ago.
And also, we were talking about how the performers are not allowing you to do on stage. And what's your plan and how do you feel about it, you not being able to do it?
Honestly, if it's going to be for the cause of my people, I want it to be as untainted as it can possibly be. I don't want to get that attention, maybe at a different venue, but I think for my people, for this cause, the reason this show is being made, I think it might have been a little selfish of me to do that.
And also at the same time, I also want to know, like, what is your music about? Because, it's not in English, so what is the translation of it?
So Inqirad is an Arabic word for the word extinction. And the band basically stands for the extinction of my people, the Arab people, the people that live in the Middle East and in North Africa. The extinction and the complete destruction and genocide of my people. The band, I sing a lot about my personal experiences being an Arab and being a punk. It's really like two sides of a coin. Like you're a minority within a minority. So it's very difficult for you to experience a very fruitful life, especially like if you're playing in the States where there's not a lot of like Arabic punk bands or punk bands that do sing in Arabic. Like there's a few of them and I can name them. There's very few, but there's a handful of them. I'm sure there's a lot of different countries like Tunisia and Morocco. They have a lot of bands, but they're not recorded yet. Because I see the shows, they play really good music, and they have a very lively scene out in the Middle East that is very supportive of the anti-Zionist notion.
Also, you say you're Palestinian yourself?
Yeah, so I'm half Palestinian. My dad is from Hebron, Khalil, and my house is Beit Jibril.
Also, you talked about someone in your family going to the hospital. What's this?
Oh, so that was my grandfather, the one I'm named after. So Abdullah Khatib Sr. He built a hospital with donations after my aunt died of leukemia at the age of 14. So it really traumatized my family. But they said my grandfather wrote a book about it. And he's talking about the journey that everyone goes through with cancer. And he named it Biel after her name. And it was a very painful experience for my family. This was before I was even born. To experience and to have to go through. So my grandfather wanted to build a hospital that heals children for free. So when the King Hussein at the time, he died of cancer and he died in this hospital. So they changed the name from Amal, which means hope, to King Hussein Cancer Center. And they robbed us of basically that whole thing.
And also, how long did your band was active for? What's the story behind the band, the members, and things like that?
Okay, so I had a few members when I was out living in the Inland Empire, and we kind of just went our separate ways when I moved back to Irvine. Just some drama or whatever. It's nothing like just people have different ideas. Like I miss my old members. They're cool. But to be honest, like I feel like the message can keep going on. Keep going on. I didn't want because I look at Inqirad like my child, I didn't want it to die and be buried just because there isn't enough members. So I kept it going on. I kept sharing, trying to get people to join the band and like experience something musical with. And then I know my guitarist Ethan, he's awesome. I've known him ever since I moved to California. He was like one of the first friends that I've had here. And Devin has been following Inqirad after he found the Craigslist ad that I posted up, I'm like, Arabic punk band Inqirad, who wants to join? He hit me up, he's like, I'll fill in bass. So the organizers of the show, they're so kind and beautiful. They basically were like, we want your band to play, because they all knew about my band. They wanted, like, we want your band to play, what do you need? I'm like, I need a drum. So they're like, we got you. Come here this time. We did that. Everything was ready. We jammed. We only had 2 jam sessions together, and man, it was probably better than my last weeks. So like, there's a lot more passion.
And also, since we're at a VOCALIST place, what are some opinions that you're just like just pisses you off to hear? Like, what is some stupid shit? And what do you say back to debunking?
So one of the main things is condemn Hamas. So the thing is with Hamas is they're a resistance fighting group, but in America they're viewed as a terrorist group. But they only respond to what the IDF puts the Palestinians through. The attack on October 7th wasn't the first one, but wasn't many of the attacks that Hamas has done. But if you compare it to what Israel and the IDF does to the Palestinian people on a daily basis, that's what the issue is. Why would you condemn resistance fighters when they are being slaughtered? It's a genocide of Arabs. Why should we condemn Hamas when they don't condemn the IDF for killing the Palestinians? That's such an oxymoronic thing. Like, if you're gonna stand with the cause, you don't have to stand with Hamas. Hamas doesn't necessarily, like, it's not all just Palestine, It represents the freedom, the people fighting back. So it's very, like, I find it very stupid to say condemn Hamas. You condemn the IDF, maybe I'll condemn Hamas. I'm not gonna.
And another thing too is there's been a lot of like misconceptions about what's going on. What are one of the ones you hear all the time?
A lot of those stuff that the IDF started saying about like dead babies and other people kidnapped by Hamas and shit like that. Like, I would see those posters and rip them off. As soon as they're done putting them up, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna get them. So shit like that, like, it just pissed me off because like they try so hard to make us seem like we're the perpetrators. Like, they want us to be a wrong one, and they use Hamas as an excuse every single time. They're like, Hamas did this, Hamas did that. But Hamas isn't Palestine. It's a group. They're resistance fighters. They stand for the Palestinian people. They don't hurt Israelis. And there's videos of them cradling and telling the little babies, you're okay, you're okay. And the IDF, what do? What do? They fucking humiliate these people. They humiliate these Arab men, make them do homosexual acts, make them hold up flags of Israel while they chant anti-Palestinian slangs and whatever, There's this one recently I've been seeing of the IDF soldier putting a cigarette or a joint in the lips of the fucking dead men. Like, their heads all splattered and they're putting a joint in their mouth like this. And it's fucking humiliating. I was like, what is this? Like, you're saying condemn the IDF. That's where we've been saying the whole time. Condemn the IDF.
So what do you feel about the people making it seem like it's a Muslim versus Jewish thing?
It was never that. So the Muslims, Arabs, Muslims and Jews, they're all Semites. They're all from the Semitic regions. And if you do look up Semitism, it says Jewish and Arab. Because we, as people living in a pre-colonized Palestine, they lived hand in hand. They lived in communities together. They thrived together. They were able to do so many things together. So they had it was a good couple.
And another thing I wanted to ask is, what are your internal experiences that you relate to with other Middle Eastern people here in America?
Oh man, don't get me started. Man, they look at me, they're like, you're a freak, you're a devil worshiper. Like, my family, they're cool about how I look, how I dress, my tattoos and all of that. But the other Arabs that see me here, they're like, "Inta btahki Arabi?" Like, you speak Arabic? I'm like, yeah, I speak fluent. And I tell them where I'm from and everything. And they're like, oh, we didn't think. They're like, oh, you think you're Americanized now? I get that a lot, like, you're an Americanized girl. But if you look at me, I'm not Americanized. I'm still my my people. That's the thing that the colonizer wants to instill, like, to separate us from everything.
And I wanted to ask like a question because I saw you give your speech and you had some time alone. What were some of the feelings that were going on with that speech?
It was a very difficult for me to give that speech. Believe me, I practiced it more than 20 times before I even got up to read it. And as soon as I was up there with the speech in my hand started to shake and I couldn't stop it. And I was just overwhelmed with grief, and like I started seeing the faces of the children, like the faces of the mothers, the faces of the fathers speaking up and I couldn't, like it really dug in deep, you know. Like,
And what is your history becoming a punk? How did all that transfer?
so I was into like metal and like rock and shit like that. I didn't know about punk until I was like 14. So my sister, like she's the one that introduced me to it. I was like, man, I'm a misanthropic fucking loner and shit like that. And she's like, she put me on Black Flag, Nervous Breakdown, Hate the Living, Love the Dead, Misfits. I don't listen to any of those bands anymore. But those were the two first punk songs. I was like 14 or 15. My sister came back from Beirut. She met like all these Arabic punks over there, and she was like, this is what I see you doing. She was right, you know, like it hit home. Ever since then, like I never stopped looking up what punk is, what it's about, and like how it makes me feel very free, and it makes me feel very supported, you know.
And another thing, how did the pandemic kind of hold back your band a little bit? Because I knew you guys came up when the pandemic was around.
That's right, we did come up when the pandemic was around. We played 2 shows at the most, and then we kind of went on a hiatus where we just didn't play anything. We practiced once here and there, but it wasn't as organized as it was before. But yeah, like we kind of just took a break, and then now I found new members, so it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Like I enjoy this going and get out a lot. But like we haven't had a lot of like live exposure, you know. Like people know us like a band, like on Bandcamp or on YouTube. Like they never thought like I didn't think we'd be playing for like a minute, you know. But it was good that they reached out and helped us out, like for the drummer and everything. Like the drummer is really humble, he's a great guy. Yeah, it's a good thing.
And is there any other things you want to bring up? Any questions you want me to ask that you feel like you wanted me to bring up? Because I really love you guys' band, and I love you a lot. You're the fucking homie. I love you like my fucking brother. Is there anything you want to educate the people on? Is there anything you really want to see from the heart?
Fuck Israel and condemn the idea.
That's all, my brother.
That's all.
This is Rude Records, and we're ending this interview with
Arab Skunk.